Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me. My name is State Representative Corey Mason, and we're here again to urge the legislature, and more importantly, the governor, to take action on the higher ed lower debt bill, Assembly Bill 498, which would allow people who hold student loan debt to refinance their loans at lower rates and a tax deduction for those loans. We've seen over the course of the last month, especially, that when the legislature and the governor want to get something done and they put their mind to it, they can pass a bill within a matter of weeks. So it's not a matter of mechanically whether or not we can pass a bill. And so we are calling on the governor today to take some sort of action on student loan debt. We know that there are hundreds of thousands of families that are paying off student loan debt on an average of $19 or 19 years just to pay off an undergraduate debt. And so the stories that we've heard continue to be compelling. I'll let some of my colleagues talk about that. The reason we're here today is we're actually part of a national day of action to fight student loan debt. So we know that there's things going on in other jurisdictions and in other states. So we wanted to take this opportunity on this National Day of Action to encourage the governor to finally do something about student loan debt here in the state of Wisconsin. I've been very pleased with the reception that we've gotten thus far from other jurisdictions asking more questions about our bill and how effective it could be. This is Wisconsin's opportunity to be a national leader on this issue and really address student loan debt in a way that the federal government and Wall Street has failed to do. So to talk about some of the more specific examples and stories, I wanted to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Representative Kolstey, who's really done a great job reaching out to her constituents and listening to them about some of the stories that they've had to tell, and I just wanted to ask her to come up and share some of those stories with you now. Representative Kolstey.
Thank you. Actually, I can just relay one story from last evening when we had a meeting of dentists in the community, and we were taught one of the things we're very interested is student debt, because professionals coming out of school have a lot of debt to the tune of $250,000 to anywhere above there, $600,000, $700,000. So it's a vital interest to professionals, because at some point in time we may only people. But you either have two options if you want to go to a professional school. You either have families with deep pockets, or you have to take out a lot of student debt. And that is just limiting what they can do after they get out of school. We see people that won't be able to buy practices, they won't be able to buy homes or new cars and those kinds of things. So this is something that hits across the spectrum. And they'll tell you it's about choices you make when you go to college. But back in the day, I could put my husband through medical school, just having a middle-class job, and still be able to feed our family, pay housing, and put him through school. Those days are gone forever. So anyway, I hope that our colleagues will see that there is great value in this. There's great economic value in getting this passed, so that it can help speed up our economy and get some of those things accomplished that young people should just be able to spend their money on in today's economy.
Great.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Scott Ross from Wisconsin now to talk a little bit about the National Day of Action and its importance and why we're calling on Governor Walker to take action here today. Scott?
Well, thank you, Representative Mason, for your leadership, as well, Representative Kolstey. It's very simple that a quality higher education is a public good, and it should be affordable and accessible to all, without the burden of significant debt or financial hardship. And student loan debt has grown from $200 billion in the year 2000 to well over $1.2 trillion this year. It is the only personal debt that's increased since the Great Recession. It now exceeds all other personal debt in the United States of America, except for mortgage debt. So there's more student loan debt than there is credit card debt or auto debt. And what we have seen with our research is that there is a significant negative impact on the economy because of student loan debt. Research that we did showed that, for instance, if you have a student loan debt, you are twice as likely to own a used car as opposed to a new car. If you have a student loan debt, you are twice as likely to be a renter or live with your parents than own that piece of the American dream, a home of your own. And in fact, conservatively, our science showed that over $200 million every single year in new car purchasing power is loss directly attributable to student loan debt. And the final thing that I'll say is, unlike in years past, student loan debt is now going to higher education for many. And there are 40 million Americans with student loan debt, including at least 750,000 here in the state of Wisconsin with federal student loan debt. It is a multi-decade debt sentence. Our research shows that for a 4-year degree obtained here in the state of Wisconsin, you are paying for an average of 18.7 years at about $350 a year. All that money being essentially, a month, all $350 a month. All that essentially being sent to banks as opposed to being spent in the community. And as we see continued problems with our unique ability here in Wisconsin to not create new jobs, well, student loan debt is having an even more significant impact because people who are graduating can't get jobs that can pay for their student loans. As both the previous speakers said, there is a growing coalition, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but all across the United States, to do something about student loan debt. And Wisconsin is leading and can continue to lead. And it's time for the governor and for the legislature to act affirmatively on this, to assist borrowers and small businesses and local communities all across the state of Wisconsin. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. In some ways, the best way to illustrate this story, this crisis that we have with student loan debt here in the state of Wisconsin, is to talk to some people who have student loan debt of their own. So we have two people here who are paying student loan debt now who have very compelling stories. And I think it's important for people to realize what this means for people to have decades of student loan debt to pay. It means that really their ability to get into the middle class, to achieve the American dream, is literally being threatened by the size and scope of these student loan debts. That means for decades at some point, for some people, you're gonna have to pay hundreds of dollars, maybe even more, every month to get a chance just to obtain a degree in a higher education, instead of starting that small business or starting a family or buying a home. These are the things that have been the hallmark of what it is to achieve the American dream and be in the middle class. And student loan debt, if it continues to grow at this rate, will threaten that very dream. Here to talk a little bit about it, I'm gonna ask Saul to come up and share his story. And Saul, we're gonna come up and share your story with us.
Thank you, Representative Mason and Representative Colsey, for your leadership on this and for truly standing up for students and families across Wisconsin. My name is Saul Newton. I'm a student at the University of Wisconsin at Waukesha, pursuing a degree in communications. I'm also a U.S. Army veteran, a veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom, and a student loan debtor. When I started my college career 7 years ago, I dreamed of earning an education. I dreamed of earning a bachelor's degree, staying in Wisconsin to work and raise a family, and securing a middle-class job. My parents couldn't go to college, but they instilled in me at a very young age the value of an education. Because of their encouragement, I dedicated myself to earning a college education. In 2007, I enrolled at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. My working-class family couldn't afford tuition, even at a state university. I had to rely on financial aid and student loans to pay for my education. And year after year, I watched as the cost of college rose. From 2007 to 2009, my yearly tuition went up $1,600. I worked several jobs to make ends meet, but I was drowning. My only option to afford a college education was to enlist in the military, to serve my country, and receive the benefits of the GI Bill. 2 years into my college career, with thousands of dollars in debt already racked up, I joined the U.S. Army. And less than a year later, I was deployed to Kandahar province in Afghanistan. While I was deployed, going on daily patrols and fighting for my country, I was making payments on my student loans, loans that I still have not paid off. I was making these payments because there weren't common sense protections for consumers on my loans, and my credit and economic future were in jeopardy. Today I can pursue a bachelor's degree because of the GI Bill, but students should not have to go to war to afford a college education. And like 753,000 other Wisconsinites, I will graduate with student loan debt that will burden me for years. Legislation like that, which has been proposed by Representative Mason and other leaders in the state legislature, would be a lifeline for students like me across Wisconsin. The higher ed lower debt bill would allow me to refinance my loans to qualify for lower interest rates. I could deduct my student loan payments from my state taxes, and students would have more information to make borrowing decisions. This bill, and others like it on the national level, protect students so that we can be productive workers and entrepreneurs. The simple fact of the matter is that a college education is a path to economic security. Students like me are working hard to provide for our future and improve our communities. We aren't asking for a handout, but we are asking for a fair shot. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another borrower here, a member of our team actually, Jenny Dye.
As Scott said, my name is Jenny Dye. I am a student loan debtor, and I also serve on the Dane County Board. And because of my own personal experience with student loan debt and the stories that I hear from young professionals and young families in my district, we at the Dane County Board took action to support the higher ed lower debt bill that we're here talking about today, but also to call on state and federal legislators and executives to take action on student loan debt, because this is an issue that affects each and every one of us. Even if you don't have debt yourself, you're affected because borrowers are not putting their dollars into your local economy. My mom is a small business owner, so she's affected by that, even though she no longer has her own debt. And I think my story is really one that is repeated over and over. I graduated from law school in 2008. And I interviewed for several jobs here in Wisconsin. I really wanted to stay in my home state. I was offered a few positions, all with the same salary range, and after accepting, I sat down and did my budget to figure out, with my salary and my student loan payments and other expenses, what was that going to look like? And I quickly found myself sitting on my couch at my apartment alone in tears, because I was going to have dollars left over each month. Later that year, income-based repayment became available when the federal government adopted new legislation with new repayment options. That has helped in terms of a monthly budget and allowing me to have a little bit of breathing room. But what it has meant is that after 5 years of repayment and paying close to $10,000, I now owe $20,000 more than I did when I graduated from law school, because the accruing interest results in my minimum payment on that payment plan not meeting the monthly interest. Hopefully, someday I will be in a position where I'm earning enough to be able to pay more. But for now, that is a huge burden that is hanging over my head. I'm getting married in July, and when I think about having kids, I know that I'm still going to be paying off my debt the entire time that I would be trying to save up for their college education. And I know that I'm not going to be able to be in a position to help them the way that my parents helped me. And even with their help, I find myself in this situation. This bill is not about me and my story, it's about the stories of so many other people who are in the exact same position. And that's why it's way past time for our government to take action to make sure that we are helping people to have a bright future, not just for themselves, but for all of us. Thank you.